everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Two, where it's our show where we review things in the world of television. Most times we are doing episode-by-episode reviews of currently on-air shows premiering their brand new seasons. Today we are taking a step back and just reviewing something we've already watched. Because for the last 10 or so weeks, we have reviewed the entirety of the 6th season of The Rookie. However, there's still, somehow crazily, a portion of the fan base that has yet to watch the full 6th season of The Rookie that is now officially available only on Hulu right now, which also Hulu is on Disney Plus, so technically you can also watch it on Disney Plus too. It's kind of weird to say that you can technically watch The Rookie on Disney Plus. It's still kind of weird to say. But yeah, no, so for the longtime fans, if you are a binger, if you've just been waiting for season 6 to be done and out, and just to binge it all in one weekend for your viewing consumption, you know, the time is now. Here's kind of like your non-spoiler review. Well, when I say non-spoiler review, like, I will still be spoiling stuff from the first episode. Anything beyond that is off the table, so do not worry. And even if you somehow don't even want me to spoil anything from that first episode, you can go check back on all of our episode reviews for season 6 that are out right now here on youtube.com/actionx to see more of that. But if this is just you want to see how does season 6 do, is it the best season ever, is it somewhere else, then this is the video for you. So thanks for tuning in. Sadly, this is our last Rookie related video kind of until next year. The way the calendars work right now, I believe we'll do a season 3 review, definitive one by the end of the year, but that's still like TBD. We'll talk about it later. But for now, we're just here to talk about season 6 on a non-spoiler capacity, which, if you have been watching me on the week to week, watching each and every episode review, you kind of have a somewhat of a semblance, in my opinion, of the season thus far. Well, not thus far, thus far, of like hearing like what my overall thoughts were. Where like, I said this before, like every episode of a season can be amazing, can be great, but I'm reviewing it as a story perspective, as like a season-long perspective. And sadly, this season had a lot of, hurdles to climb through. Not only is it, the 6th season, there's kind of a curse to that, similar to season 4's, is also coming right after the Hollywood strikes, where both the SAG strike and the Writers Guild strike sadly punt back not just this show, but a lot of the other shows that were on air for regular broadcast by a lot. We only got 10 episodes this season, the lowest we've gotten since season 3's 14 episodes. So we haven't gotten that low of an episode count, and it was a challenge. Some people debated, like, should we just push back season 6 all the way to next season just to like have a full run, or should we just do an abbreviated season, then like go back to normal the next season? And that was just the question in a lot of people's minds about that. And they chose the latter. 10 episodes is better than nothing. And now looking back into it, now going from like, where we left off in season 5, now having understand what we have witnessed in season 6, I'm a little, in my personal opinion, I'm very happy we still got 10 episodes of The Rookie now, but there is still a part of me that probably would have wanted them to, like, 7 months of an extra wait isn't that bad to get it to start a full season, to kind of really do what they really want to do with the season. I can wholeheartedly imagine there were certain things they were probably wanting to do in the proper season 6 had they gotten the full episode season order, which they couldn't because, timetables and everything. And I think for me personally, to give my overall summary of the season, I think they did the best they could with the 10 episodes they got in. I think they worked on it as well they could. They did as much as they could to kind of make it feel like a season, but at the same time trying to like leave doors open for like what season 7 will be, which I think in part would probably have some stuff for season 6, what they were originally planning on before the pivot. And I will say this is sadly not the best season ever. And, I've usually gone to like, somehow they top themselves, whether or not maybe it wasn't in one area, it was another area, and that was enough to raise something else. I've kind of been doing that since we began the show review, the overall reviews for the show. And now going to season 6, yeah, I could definitely say, no, this is not the new number 1. This is not. And again, that doesn't mean the show was bad. It doesn't mean this was crap. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that I won't even put this in the top 3. And again, the 10 episode limit does hinder it. And yes, there have been plenty of shows out there that have done amazing storylines with 10 episodes or less. I understand that. It is plausible. However, this isn't the case because The Rookie is formatted as a different show. It's not one of those types of show. It tells a story differently. And yeah, it's kind of hard to say where. I don't think this is the worst season they've had. And again, when I mean worst, I just mean least favorite. I don't think any of the 6 seasons are bad or horrendous. There's just stuff where like I liked and I don't like. This definitely does fall in the bottom half. You know, that where like yeah, you can never like it's if you tell me out of 2, 5, and even maybe 4, like do I find those like, you know, like season 6 better than those? Absolutely not. Like, because they had the full run, they told a much larger story, a much more completed story compared to where we are now. We're like, yeah, it still told a story, but they were very much like not. It wasn't fully developed because they didn't have all the episodes to really do so. So it was kind of like picking and choosing what were they able to explore properly in a 10 episode season compared to what they were going to be able to originally do had they gotten the full run. So again, I don't blame it on the writers fully. They did the absolute best they can. I still think they did a really good job with the material. It just, for me, it just does not stand out as the furthest, you know, of the top 3 of the 6 so far we've got it. And, you know, again, that's not an insult. That's not a negative comment on it. It just means that, you know, if you're expecting it to be OMG amazing, it's not. I'm just being honest with you. And I'm saying that as one of, like, The Rookie is still in my top 10 favorite shows of all time. This season did not, well, I actually have to look back at my rankings and see where it fell, but it's still my top 10, you know, overall favorite shows of all time. Like, you know, and which is a very hard list to get to. And the fact that, you know, the cast and crew continue to not only maintain that straight, at least the standard care quality a Rookie episode should be in. And again, they managed to do so. Just sadly, they were not able to like really use everything to its fullest potential because of the limitations. And, you know, hopefully this gives them, you know, like, you know, more story tools to use for whenever we do come back in season 7 next year. So with that being said, let's go a little bit more deeper into things. So again, for me, I would still recommend season 6 of The Rookie. If you are a diehard Rookie fan, if you are still watching The Rookie, you still need to watch this season. I still think it's a lot of fun. The characters are still up there, for the best they can do. The story's still good. And every episode still, you're gonna find a moment to laugh. It's just the standard Rookie TLC is still there. Just not quite to the heights of where its predecessors were, but it was it's mostly no fault to its own. So going a little deeper with the story, picking up where we last left off in season 5 with the mysterious, like, who the fuck were those guys at the end of season 5, part of my language, and then like kicking it off into here. I will say, you know, the traditional trope of, you know, the big season finale gets resolved in the next season premiere. It kind of does continue again, sadly, this season. I'm a little bit bummed by that. I can mention that. But it is used to tee off what would be the next big threat for the LAPD, for Mid-Wilshire to handle. But I will say, again, when it comes to, like, you know, pacing on that front, they could have done really better on that. They really could have done it, or just, you know, find some way to, like, you know, sprinkle that in throughout. But it did not give the most brightest of tips afterwards on that. So in terms of, like, of that original premise, we do not get to see much of that, to be honest with you. But, you know, we do get to some new developmental points afterwards, as what happens at the end of season 5 and the beginning of season 6 kind of reflects onto the team itself when we progress even further down, when we get back to it, to the more day-to-day routines with the whole the crew from Mid-Wilshire. And I think some of the story directions they do put it in is very interesting. Some will have the comparison cards when, you know, like, the problem is when you continuously when you begin to, like, have a long-running TV show, especially when you pass that 5th season mark, it becomes very difficult to not reuse certain tropes, to not reuse certain ideas, where I think finally with this season, they finally dipped that toe in a little bit. Some things kind of felt like we've seen this before in another version, and sadly the comparison conversation happens where, yeah, it was done better in the original version, not here. And again, that doesn't mean they weren't doing the best they can. It just, again, those were 2 very different scenarios where, like, one season had over 20 episodes to tell that storyline, and this one only had 10, but was introduced later. So I don't fault them really on that. Really, I know they were trying to find a way to like really intensify the storyline, really raise the stakes, but I didn't really feel the emotional connection there. It just didn't have that 1-2 punch for me personally speaking. Where it was again, I would love to say more about it, but like for what I can say is that there were certain things they were trying to emulate again, but it just didn't really feel like the same like tension that I felt previously. I'll just say that much on that. But they do some new things about it, some like delightful new twists, and I think those kind of make up for it. In the long run of things, thankfully, like maybe one thing is not panning out, but another thing is panning it out, so it's raising it up the overall quality of things, which I'm actually at least a little bit appreciative for that. They were able to like have a consistent through line throughout that entire the main primary storyline. Because while every episode kind of felt like its own thing, we had the premiere that had to pick up where season 5 left off. Then literally the next episode, you had the 100 episode special, which again was mostly just being a celebratory, commemorable episode rather than really being a 100 episode traditional like. What I will say is like you're not getting obscene amount of cameos. You're not going to get every single rookie character back under one roof. That's not happening here. But I will say what they do is like they find a very nice middle ground between we are celebrating the show thus far, and also we are celebrating this momentous occasion in the journey of the cast of The Rook, especially for John Nolan, who us viewing at for 100 episodes by that point was just like it's a big milestone for where he is. Again, like having moved to LA like a few years ago to restart his life. This just felt like not in a very much like like where maybe like an Arrow or Flash would be like really like looking back on it. It is definitely like in a way like looking back of like this is the culmination of one part of his current story, and that he's excited to like keep forward, keep moving on to things and keep developing himself to the next point possible. Which again, I think that's the perfect segue to get into the characters this season. Where again, non spoilers. I will do my best. And I will go in order of from lowest to highest in terms of like appearance, in terms of like what is there to talk about, and I'll begin with Wesley, where sadly I do believe Wesley is the season Shaft character. He is the character that I think does not get enough screen time. Sadly, it is very much a byproduct of again limited episodes. Obviously, Mid Wilshire is the center point here because this is a police procedural show. And Wesley is not a cop, nor is he married to the main character in Bailey's case. But however, Wesley is still a very dependable guy. He's still very much a amazing father, a good human being, and obviously like just the yin to Lopez's yang. So it works out for them. But mostly he's just providing sometimes exposition, reminding us of the values that Lopez and him share. And that's really about it, to be honest with you. We don't get really too much into his into like what's going on in his firm. Like we do get a little bit, but like not too much. Like really like move the needle a little bit. Sad to say. And definitely he is there to like he does have some pretty cool moments throughout the season. I'm not saying like he's not totally there, but like in comparison, yeah, he's not really there, to be honest with you. I mean, there was an entire episode where like he had one scene, and then after that he kind of like disappeared for the rest of the episode. Where again, it's really hard to do that, to kind of fit everything in and still have it feel like the show. I'd rather them like keep the same show, but like also the same. It's very comical. Like that's why I never wanted to be a writer, because like it would be just so difficult to like manage like an ensemble cast and trying to give everyone equal pieces. Like it's just not possible. It really isn't. Going next into Bailey, Nolan's like fiance. Then mild spoiler, they do get married. So now his wife. They get into like an interesting, thing. I think I mentioned this when we did the season 6 predictions video, where like Nolan and Bailey being like progressing towards their wedding. Like we need some sort of new challenge for them, and they do get a pretty presentable new challenge. Just something that like was one of those off-spoken things. Like we as viewers never really got to like explore the conversation of that, but like they definitely actually talk about it in this season, and it's something that. It does help Bailey's character a little bit. It does definitely, broaden her prior experience before joining the show and everything, before meeting up with Nolan, and definitely does like her decision and her like eventual wants and needs eventually kind of puts back into like question for Nolan, since there's the certain point in question, like we haven't really talked about it on the Nolan side of things since season 2, and if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, but like regardless, it definitely does like push Nolan to like definitely a new area of like his life that he wasn't even expecting about to think about again, because just he kind of made that silent vow to never do it again, and now it could be happening. But otherwise, like as much as I've seen some flack online where like again, people love Chenford, which I'll get to that in a second, but where like any other couples don't really matter, maybe Lopez and everything, but like I'm like, guys, relax. I think every couple doesn't have to be the same. They're different. Same in real life, in your friend group. Like every relationship is not going to be the same as the next, and definitely Nolan Bailey's, for some reason, it just complements each other. They just work together. Like these definitely kind of seem like opposites attract in a very different scenario, but it does definitely work. And their scenes together, like they share a lot of scenes this season in particularly, and I think it helps us as the viewers grow with it to like really understand why do they work together, and especially understand more Bailey's point of view over certain things. Just that she's also her own dependent person. That she's grateful that no one's in her life, but she can also handle her own thing, handle things on her own. And I think we just grow that appreciation for her more and more so every season. Again, that's just my opinion on it. That's really it. I definitely do enjoy. I think this is my favorite season of her so far. Just getting to see more of that dynamic with Nolan being built in the various different story angles they take it for all the 10 episodes. Then going into Gray, where I think next to Wesley, Gray's like, he's just like the big mentor character that's kind of like, he'll get a storyline once in a while, but like, yeah, it's one of those seasons where like he's like part of storylines. He's not really getting his own storyline. The only thing real noticeable is like, it happens in the 100th episode where we get to see him like, kind of like realize where things are at in the current environment of things. And, that certain things that they said back in season 1, season 2, even season 3, yeah, those are not quite off the table yet. Those are not gonna happen anytime soon. So definitely it does leave possibilities for him to like, continue forward in his own thing here, which again, I'm always clamoring for a Gray storyline. I'm always clamoring for that because he's such an amazing character. I like him so much. The actor's great in the role that I just want to see more of him and like really delve into more of his character. And I think like he does have his affectionate side that is like getting a little bit more clear through as we progress further and further into the season itself. But definitely him getting his own thing to do, like it doesn't really happen much or less that often, sadly. So that's all I can say on that front, because there really is not much to say about that front. Going to Aaron, last season, I mentioned Aaron was kind of like, where Wesley is now, like, the Shaft, where like, Aaron had the big, season. This is his debut season. We're giving him a fresh storyline, a debut storyline. And then season 5 came out and he was kind of like, he was there. They had some things for him to do, but it didn't really feel like we were actually progressing with that character. But the way they begin season 6 with him is, going off like, him getting shot and nearly dying at the end of season 5, now coming into season 6 where, yeah, like, it's pretty dire for him. And, he definitely does have to like recuperate from that and really like figure out where does he stand, like it's not every day, like, someone can go for that traumatic incident, like, be able to walk away to tell the story again. For Aaron, like, I'm very pleased that they were able to like put him in some sort of direction this season, which I kind of feel like, even though it was kind of like, similar to another character we'll talk about in a minute, it kind of seems like their worst season, not in terms of like, their performance or how they did, but just in general, how the characters like, getting affected by events. And I definitely do believe this is one of his worst, where like he just had back-to-back L's. He just had so many. And then by the time we ended up, it's like, yeah, damn it. That was like, yeah, man, you really did not have a kind season on yourself. Thankfully you're good health, good spirits, but like in terms of like luck, yeah, Aaron did not get any of that, so to speak. Off to Selena, where I can say, in a matter of speaking, they definitely did not really shaft their character. That was one of my worries when we were wrapping up season 5, kind of giving my overall beginning thoughts on where we would pick up with season 6, where Selena had her debut storyline, and they resolved that. And so my kind of worry was that where do they progress with that? Where do we go with that? And I had my one expectation from that, and I can say, like, again, if you're watching every little piece I do, they don't explore that at all. They kind of do something else with that. And again, similar to where we were with Aaron, like, you know, she does have her own like battle scars from like the events of season 5, and you know that carries her over here, where it kind of like it continues to evolve her to where she's going in her in her boot period, trying to, like, you know, still figure out who she is as a cop, what she has still left to learn, which I will say, like, you know, the slowness is greatly felt. The slowness is greatly felt with this season. It really is. It feels like we're progressing a mile a minute, but we're really not. Like, you know, I will say that Selena is not progressing in terms of like her actual career rank as fast as we should have. So keep that in mind when watching it. You know, like, certain things don't happen because supposedly we're not there yet, and hopefully I won't have to say that again this time next year. But no, but yeah, but no. So, but I'm very thankful. Like, for me, I don't think she experienced a slump. I definitely think it just more as a motivation now to have her properly continue her training in terms of like being squarely focused. I think not only is her relationship with Nolan kind of continue to deepen a little further as, you know, they develop more of that Tio boot bond, as they've really kind of had like a really like very accelerated like bonding experience back in season 5. This continuing, and now her being able to branch off into like the other TOs, the other officers, detective, the other members of the Mid-Wilshire crew. We get to see more of that, which again makes for, you know, fun, engaging scenes, and at the same time, you know, beginning to build even more bridges for those relationships, especially a couple towards the end of this season. So I was very happy they didn't really shaft her that much. I was really happy. Then going into Harper, where for me, I will say Harper always kills it in her scenes. I think she's always got the right thing to say, the right things to do, the right questionability over certain things. She very much is on the straight and narrow. However, in terms of like an actual storyline, she didn't really get one, in my opinion. I definitely think like she was just, you know, like this was mostly like them building up their own detective cop thing with Lopez. And I'm like, as much as that's amusing and everything, like, you know, I would have liked there to be a little bit more room for, like, you know, comp. We didn't really get to see much more on her family side besides a couple appearances throughout the whole season. She's mainly just helping on the cases, helping out the others. And, you know, again, that's not a bad thing to say, but, like, you know, at least she's there. She has a reason to be contributing to the plot. But at the same time, eventually, like, you know, like, yeah, happiness is great, but the problem is when you're watching a TV show, you kind of want there to be, what's the next challenge? What's the next thing they really have to account for, you know, in the overall thing. And again, I do understand, again, with the whole episode cap and everything, there was only so much they were able to do. But, you know, I definitely could have felt there was a workaround there to, like, give her something a little bit more so. Because she was mostly just participating, helping out a little bit, and that's really it. There really is nothing notable to stand out on the Harper front, sadly. But definitely the character's still killing it. There, then, you know, very, you know, they always find a way to reinvent her hairstyle every so often, which again I think, you know, it just it's a funny thing to witness as we begin through each season. So hopefully she'll get a new one next time. Lopez, kind of in the similar boat. Again, you're coming off such a big battle with Elijah last season that, you know, it's kind of hard. Like, how do you really like pick that back up again? So it's kind of the same thing where I said for Harper, where those two were, like, you know, very tight to the hip. They were very, very much like building off more of their relationship, continuing to build that, you know, partner type vibe thing, which is definitely working. It very much is. But besides that, again, like, you know, she only has her only real conflict nowadays with Monica, you know, Wesley's ex-fiance, the big lawyer for the criminals, you know, that's really her own, like, real big vendetta. I already forgot. V for vendetta. I'm speaking the Spanish version of the word, and I'm just, like, I'm stuck on it. But other than that, you know, normally she's just, like, you know, similar to Harper, she's just helping out. Besides, whenever Monica's appear, like, you know, but it's mainly just like as the courageous, like, I know this woman's bad and I need to take her down somewhat, and that's basically it. That still is prevalent here. That still continues, and you know, again, like the characters of Lopez and Harper are still killing it. In my opinion, they're still nailing their performance. They still have a mark to play, even though they're not making a big stamp on things. They are definitely making their mark in every scene. They're always making a way to, like, you know, really impress the audience, you know, keep everything moving along and not feel like a burden. But definitely, I would expect more, but I'm happy nothing got like shafted downwards, in my opinion about that. Then we get into the big one, well, not the big one, but like, everyone, the one everyone keeps talking about, Chenford. We had a whole season last year where everyone was trending about it, which again, the writers knew what they were doing. This season, it's kind of what I call it, not every relationship is going to be perfect, Bradford and Chen seem like to be in a decent place, but at the same time, there are challenges to be. There's things that, us as viewers were kind of expecting, some that we weren't expecting. And I think for me personally, that kind of keeps everything engageful. As we get to delve a little bit more into Bradford's past in a different angle. And, that definitely does have, retributions and like, backlashes on how the current, present day him is doing so. And, that, it expresses the lesson of like your past actions could always come back to bite you. Regardless if it's like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, somehow it will always come back to bite you, and it's just going to be worse from then on out. But for me, for Bradford, I definitely think, like, even though this is not his show, I definitely do believe I think this is the season he had the most growth, and I think there's still more to go. I think because like, that's such a allure nowadays with the fan base that, like, let's really push the envelope further on Bradford, like this is a very strict army dude, coming into the police force, again, like we're not seeing that transition, but like we are seeing like, yeah, like there's some things that, he never really got to unpack. Cause again, by the time he should be unpacking this, his wife at the time went druggy and he kind of like even went more stoic than he was then. And that kind of created the issue of like, yeah, no, this is not what I need. And I kind of just need to repress. And like now him being at this point where like, he's very happy with Chen. He's very satisfied with his career. How do we shake that up? How do we really get that going? And I think they did a really good job at that. And again, like similar to what we'll go back into Chen, like, trust the writers. Like I trust the writers. I really do. I think I know what they're doing. I think I know what they're trying to do to make a much more satisfying conclusion. And definitely when it comes to that, like, I don't have complaints. I really don't. I think, they're the way that Bradford was handled the season, what I think the best development he's had so far in the show. And definitely, I do believe there's still more to go. There's still more things for him to do. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited to see where he's going to go from there. Same with Chen. Chen, this is like similar to I think I want to say it's Erin, where like, she got beat up a lot this season. She really got put for the ringer. This is definitely the career plateau effect where like, have you reached the pinnacle? Have you reached that certain point where like there's no more room for progression? There do have conversations about that, and people are going to compare and contrast over everyone that, Nolan got the P2 position, Bradford got Metro, Harper went off fully to detective, everyone's kind of like really moving up, but like of the remaining people of the original cast, she's still where she is since she got out of the program. She's still a P1. She's still a regular officer. So where does that really leave her next? Like having seen like, and I can definitely relate to that, where you're seeing everyone else around you kind of going to the next level, and then you're kind of stuck where you're at. Like it's not a bad thing, but like it kind of questions like, when is it my turn? And I think they definitely, play that more into the effects, rather than her relationship with Bradford, where like I think both are still equal out, and they do have definitely some crossover. And again, definitely not only is it helping her deepening her relationship with Bradford, but it is also deepening her own self-worth, where like, she definitely she goes for a lot this season. There's a lot, like she goes for a lot. This is, I think, out of all the characters, she's been through the most. And yes, I know Erin got shot. I know Selena almost died. I understand that. I really do. But I feel like in terms of like the actual actions this season, she's been for the worst. And definitely there's probably nothing to be denied. Like, yeah, she's probably like anxious to figure out what is really next for her. What is really the next thing for her to explore to next. And I think they definitely handled her well, and definitely, had much more of a room for like, the comeback eventually down the road. Who knows? And then finally Nolan, where Nolan, our main star, the main poster boy. I think for him, personally, again, similar to when I talked about Bailey, he had to re-explore some ideas that he hasn't thought about in many, many years. It definitely provided him a challenge to figure out echoing certain points when he was previously and earlier in the show. Now coming back again in the present day, like, is that something he really wants to explore? Is that something he really wants to, like, reawaken into this new part of his life still? Because, it's still new for him relatively. Like, 3 years may like seem like a lot of time, but, like, again, for some people that's like, you're still beginning this new life. You're still very much into the weeds of things. Like, there is no like, hey, we're gonna go back to how things were before you. We're gonna, like, take a visit down there. No, we're not there. But definitely for Nolan, like, I was kind of clamoring for a little bit more of a challenge. We don't quite get that, sadly, this year. It's just like, but, definitely it does kind of, like, open the mental barriers for Nolan again, and definitely kind of, like, reevaluates his way of thinking a little bit, and trying to, like, figure out his path forward as an officer, as well as trying to, like, now have a little bit more of an advancement in his personal life. He's had a lot of career advancements throughout the last couple of years. Now he's finally at that point where, like, okay, I got that settled. I kind of got a groove on that. Now, how do I go to the next step when it comes to my own personal life? So definitely, because it's not just your work life, it's your personal life too. There's multiple things you got to worry about as you get older. And I say that knowing that I'm still going through it. I'm only 26 years old, and I'm still feeling that. I'm still very much feeling that. But for me personally, I kind of just to kind of put a pin on it. I think the season definitely had a lot of great standalone episodes that, like, really, like, did its own thing and really, like, kind of progressed the plot forward. But when it comes to, like, bringing it all together, like, really trying to tell as one season, it is kind of hard to really pivot as that. It really is. I just don't quite fit the nail of the margin on every single thing they were trying to do. Again, I don't fully blame them for everything. Strikes and all, like, they did the absolute best they could with the resources they had available, with the time they had available, and I think they did the very best they could. And, hopefully they left a lot of meat on the bone of that original plan for season 7. So I have really high faith to where we go next. I really, really do. But no, for me personally speaking, I would still recommend The Rookie season 6. It's still definitely worth the binge. It's definitely worth spending an entire day or a weekend at best to, like, take it all in, take the entire season in by you, and then, be happy with the final product. I definitely wish it could have been longer. I definitely wish they could have done their proper 6th season with the full season order, but, it is what it is, sadly, and now we are just going to progress forward and just wait to see how season 7 does. So with that being said, I'm giving the season 2 thumbs up. Highly recommended. Let me know down below, what did you think of the 6th season how did you think of the 6th season of The Rookie? I would love to hear comments down below as always, but I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's to Do from ActionX, having reviewed the entire 6th season of The Rookie in a non-spoiler capacity. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's to Do beside these Rookie reviews, right now we are currently doing Walker reviews each and every week after Brandon was on CW. We're on a little bit of a hiatus on that because I'm about to go on vacation. So sadly, it will be delayed. But if you don't care about The Rookie, sadly, this is the end of our coverage for this season. Another season has come to a close. We will return in 2025 with brand new episode reviews for season 7. We will roughly return later this year with our definitive spoiler-filled season 3 review. We're going back to that season. That was a very talkative season. But no, if you're for the live content, this is it. This was a fun 12 video review for The Rookie this year that I enjoyed talking about. I love The Rookie's the one that started it all. I'll keep reviewing it until the day it ends. And I'm so very happy with just how they managed to, like, perform everything and to be able to, like, bring everything to where it is now. And I'm still very happy the show's still on the air. Whether it's for 1 more season or 3 more seasons or many more like Grey's Anatomy, I highly doubt that far, but a man can dream. But definitely, I'm thankful for the show. I really am. I'm thankful for the fans like you. Some of these episodes, some of these reviews this season have been some of our highest on average. We're just improving each and every year with our numbers. So thank you very much for your support. The Rookie Nation is one of the best fan bases I've been grateful to be a part of, and thank you for your support. Thank you for everything, throughout 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, now going into 7, hopefully, I can't wait to do this all over again next year. I have no idea where I'm going to be in 2025. I really don't know. Like, last time I was like, we don't know when we're going to come back. Now it's like, no, we're definitively coming back January 2025. I have no idea how the rest of this year is going to go. Same with you. I wish you the best of luck. I really, really do. I hope when we come back in about 7 months, we'll be able to laugh, we'll be able to kick back, enjoy a brand new year together, enjoying one of our favorite shows back on the air again in these very changing TV landscapes. Hopefully next season won't be last. But again, with that all being said, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, like, favorite, share if you want to, ring that bell, and follow us on social media. But until we see each other again next year, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there, be good to each other as always. Peace out.